Good morning. We welcome you to the third of our unit record presentations. With me this morning is Stephanie Casino with the State Board of Technical and Community Colleges, PeopleSoft Financial Aid. Also Marla Skelly, who is our Associate Director for Compliance. My name is Ann Voiles. I'm the Program Associate for the Unit Record Program. Unfortunately, Carla is unable to be with us today. She is out ill. Before we go any further, I want to let you know that we will be recording this presentation. I have muted the audience at this point in order that we get a clean recording. However, we may unmute periodically for questions. In the meantime, you should have a pop-up box with a chat log down at the bottom. And if you have questions in the meantime, please type them and send them to us there. We will be monitoring for that, and we'll attempt to answer your questions as we go. With that, I am going to turn over the presentation to Marla Skelly.
Good morning, everyone. As Ann said, I'm Marla Skelly, the Associate Director for Compliance at WASAC, and I'm finishing my second year, which is sort of amazing. But I have been in the financial aid arena about 35 years, which is scary. I'll let Stephanie introduce herself. She'll be coming in on some slides as we go forward.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Casino, and I am a functional analyst for financial aid and ERP support, supporting the first link colleges that are currently on PeopleSoft.
With that, we'll go ahead. The purpose of the unit record report is to provide institutional reports and profiles, and basically we are doing comparisons across the state. And we do this to assess the need of students, and it also provides us with guidance for legislative and other policy decisions. It helps us inform changes to state aid programs through proposed modeling. It measures the needs of our students, and it minimizes ad hoc data requests to institutions. And this is something we really want to do because anytime we have to create ad hoc reporting, it leaves room for potential errors, inconsistency of data. So our goal is to make sure that we have complete information that we can report on and acts really as a centralized data repository. The timeline for the unit record is really important to us, and I hope to you. The unit record manual is available now, and you can see the URL on the slide. It has opened as of August 12th, and your finalized reports are due October 7th. We did that so that we didn't have a conflict with WAFA. WAFA is scheduled for October 22nd through the 24th, and we wanted to make sure that you all had time to complete it before other things started. We really would like you to start as soon as possible. It takes a lot of time for us once we get the finalized reports to do what we have to do to then finalize them. And that takes usually all of October, November, and into December. Last year, we weren't able to get it finalized until the first or second week of January, and we have reporting responsibilities to the legislature, and if it's that late, it really puts us up against it as well. And you all would like to see your information, so the earlier you get it into us, the better able we are to finalize and do what we need to do to have your profiles available in January of 2020. So many of you have already been through this training, and it really doesn't change that much from year to year. But I'll go over a few of the things. In the manual, you have your introduction, and actually it's a really good place to start because any changes to the manual are listed here. It'll give you a quick overview of any changes that have occurred, what we're looking for, changes, timelines, etc. And then you've got your general instructions in Chapter 1, data definitions. Chapter 3 is reporting application user's guide. From my perspective, the most important part of the manual are the appendices. In the appendices, you've got A through E, and it defines what the need-based, non-need-based programs and what recipients need to be reported. Record layout in B, system edits that prevent your file upload and import, which is going to be important if you're having issues. Quick lookup by financial aid programs, and then E is the quick lookup by unit record report file name. This is where your details are laid out. We do use CSV files for submission, and we want you to report only students who received financial aid based on the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASFA year. You need to report files in the CSV format with a header row. If it doesn't have the header row, you won't be able to upload your file. And reviewing the field definitions in Chapter 2 is really important so that you can identify what the valid field content is. And for those of you who are new, the WASFA stands for Washington Application for Student Financial Assistance, and it's something that you need to be using and working on as well as the FAFSA. The CSV format has not changed for the 2018-19 year. So what are the reporting requirements? You need to determine which students to report. Our goal is to get a high-level overview of all the right students into the report. We want, the three categories are need-based recipients, where the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASFA is required, need-based aid recipients, other programs where the FAFSA or WASFA data may or may not be available, and non-need-based federal loan recipients. So those students who are receiving the federal direct unsubsidized loan, federal parent loans, and federal Grad Plus loans.
For the CTC Link system, you'll navigate out to the state reporting page. You'll enter your institution and aid year. The aid year rate will be 2019 for the 18-19 financial aid year. You'll enter your file path that'll contain your institution. The report type will be left blank, and then you'll select Run. On the state reporting page, you'll select the unit record report, and then OK. This will run to Success and Posted, and you'll get a file that's generated in the CSV format containing the header row. This will contain your 18-19 awards.
So who are your need-based recipients? Our intention is to capture all financial aid disbursements in the unit record on a term-by-term basis. You need to report in this year all financial aid received based on the filing of the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASFA. Next year's report will have all the 2019-20 FAFSA or WASFA, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a couple of slides.
For the CTC Link system, the unit record report selects your need-based recipients as well as your non-need-based federal loan recipients.
This slide shows the programs where the FAFSA is required. And you all can read this, and you'll have access to this PowerPoint after we're done, so you'll be able to see that. I do want to make a special note about the teacher shortage conditional grant. This program was not funded in 2018-19, but we are studying the 2019 legislation to determine future impact on the program. So review this slide, look at the asterisks, and be aware of those things that you do need to report. Need-based recipients for other programs are listed on this slide. And we need this information so that we get a complete picture of all state aid that is being dispersed. Basic Food Employment and Training, or BFET, it's a subset of worker retraining funds, And if your college receives these funds, we would like you to report them under the worker retraining funds. And we would like you to report these if you can. The federal non-need-based loan recipients are the federal direct unsub, parent, and grad plus loans.
In the CCC LEAP system, there's some global setup required for the unit record report, ethnicity categories, and award categories. This contains your need-based FAFSA and WASA data required or optional, non-need-based loans or other, and award maximums. This information has been updated by ERP and is ready for you to use. At the institutional level, there is also some setup required. You'll want to update your unit record ethnicity category, which is linked to the PeopleSoft ethnic group values. This was contained in an email I sent out earlier in the year, and then recently, about a week or so ago, that had 40 values that needed to be added to setup. Also necessary is to update your award categories. They're linked to the FA item type and award status. There are a few categories or award types that would need to be updated. Your Book 72 Gold Star would need to be added if you had any pipeline award item types and any Opportunity Scholarship role item types for 18-19.
There really are no changes to the CSV header file layout for 2018-19. We'll discuss what's happening in 2019-20 in a little bit later. But you need to refer to page III in the manual. And one of the changes that you need to be aware of is that on and off-campus state work study is now a non-overridable edit. And it was added to the system to prevent non-participating institutions from submitting state work study data without a valid allocation in the portal. So you shouldn't be able to report it if you don't have an allocation in the portal. So changes for the 1920 unit record report in the portal. These are things that earlier in the year we actually asked you all about in a survey. And these are things that we are hoping to make changes to for the 2019-20, boy, that's hard to say, 2019-20 academic year. We would like for you to be able to add the ICER WASPA transaction number in the override comment box for override edits. We need this because many of you we get at WASAC all of the FAFSA transactions that a student completes. But you might pay or award and disperse off, say, an 03 transaction, and the latest one that we get, because, you know, students change their minds and different things happen, so they could have 10 transactions in there. And so we will, our system assumes that the latest transaction is the one from which you paid. So that's why we asked you in the override comments to let us know what transaction you paid from. It helps us not keep asking you you will notice Ann last year was sending in questions saying, oh, why did you, your information is different, your cost of attendance is different, your need is different. And it's because we weren't necessarily looking at the same transaction as you paid from. So that's why we need that. We are adding Passport to Careers apprenticeship opportunities for next year. That hopefully will be fully utilized next year. We are adding the Passport to College incentive grant so that we have an idea of the funds that are actually being used by your institution for incentives. The WSOS Career Technical Scholarship, which is new and will be added. New teacher preparation programs, and the Washington Health Corps programs. There's going to be some new branding and programs under the former Health Professions program. So there are a lot of changes coming in the 1920 year.
Okay, Marla, we did have a question. It actually goes back to the BFET page. And the question is, SCC funds BFET to our ABE coursework, and ABE is not required to collect Social Security numbers and/or resident information. No FAFSA is filed. All of these students error out on our CTC link CSV file and are not reported in unit record. This has been discussed with Carla in previous years. Has there been any fixes to update this information, or do we continue not reporting?
I would say continue not reporting. I don't know of any fixes, but I will run that by Carla, and if it's a change, I will we'll let you all know. Some additional changes. There will be some field deletions on the CSV header file. Federal Perkins loan is being eliminated, as is the Get Ready for Math and Science, since they are no longer being used. The state need grant, and I should have said this at the very beginning, for the 18-19 unit record, we still have it in the system as state need grant because the name change didn't happen until after. But you'll hear us using both state need grant and Washington College grant perhaps in the same sentence. It's going to take us all some time to get used to that, but we are changing the record layout to refer to WCG as opposed to SNG. These are just valid input changes based on the increases or changes to the Pell Grant. Perkins is going to 0, and Passport to College is increasing to 9,500. These are the fields that are required to be reported, and you can read those. I don't need to read those to you. We want you to report financial aid for each of the 5 terms, if you have the 5 terms. Report enrollment status for each of the 5 terms. And Anne will review this in detail when she goes over her portion of this PowerPoint. Report non-need-based aid received for all need-based recipients. So if they have $1 of need-based aid, you need to report all non-need-based aid that they have received. The CSV file requires a header row, and we do have an example in the manual. And this, when we talk about the 5 terms, you've got Summer 1, which is primarily used for your leader header awards. Fall, winter, if you're quarter school, semester schools would report winter as 0s since they don't have a winter. Spring, Summer 2 is usually primarily for trailer awards. However, there may be some unique circumstances under which a school will have both a lead and a trail. You need to contact us if this is what you're doing, because we have to do some exception work for that. So if you are a quarter or semester school and you do have a lead for some reason along with a trailer, be talking to us. Clock hour schools may have awards for all 5 terms, the nature of their program. So when should you include Summer Aid in your reporting? Review Chapter 2 of your manual. Summer Aid reported are amounts received based on the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASFA. In general, leader schools report Summer 1, Summer as 1 aid, and report Summer 2 as 0. Trailer schools, conversely, report Summer 2 aid and report Summer 1 as 0. And clock hour schools may report aid for both summers. If the recipient is enrolled in more than 1 term in the same summer, report the total amount received and enrollment status as 1 enrollment term. And this is, we're talking about if you have mini terms, that, so they take mini 1 and mini 2, combine those. You won't report them separately, and they need to be either in Summer 1 or Summer 2, whatever you report. Fields that also need to be reported for both FAFSA and WASFA filers are on this list, and we'll go into a little detail on these in a couple of slides. Just some notes about some of the selected fields. Duplicates are not accepted for, we're talking primarily about Social Security numbers. If you have duplicates, they won't upload. The Social Security numbers of state need grant and college-bound scholarship recipients will be compared to those reported on the SNG-CBS Seesaw record. So all of the things that we do to reconcile the unit record is to compare it to your Seesaw record. So our goal and your goal is to make sure that whatever Seesaw says, unit record reports are the same. Passport to college recipients will be compared to the recipient portal records. And discrepancies are going to show on your edit reports. This is just the year in school. I know when I was in a school, students had some difficulty understanding what their year in school was. So I'm certain that you all have the same problem where incoming freshmen would put graduate because, you know, they graduated high school. So be aware of this. The year in school is required for all recipients, and we want you to report the status as of the beginning of the term of the recipient's last financial aid disbursement for the 2018-19 year. So if they moved, for example, for the four-year institutions, it's not unusual for a student to, say, get their bachelor's or graduate in the fall term and then become a graduate student in the winter or spring term. We want you to report the last disbursement that was made. And it does create something. We may be contacting you to verify that that is indeed what happened, but that's what we ask you to do. Do not automatically use the year in school reported on the FAFSA or WASFA. Use the term year in school that your institution is reporting. Report the highest year in school for which the student attended when the student's financial aid was dispersed. Code 8 or other, this is the code that is used to report need-based aid for your Running Start students or other students who have not yet graduated from high school.
In the CTC link URR reporting, the year in school value is reported as beginning of the term for the student's last financial aid disbursement for the year. It's a combination of earned units between the ranges indicated in the unit record manual, whether or not the students are matriculated into their bachelor program, and the NSLDS loan year on FA term.
So for family size, generally, it's reported from the FAFSA or WASFA. If it must be 2 or higher for dependent students and 1 or higher for independent students. And we did add here, if the student is married, the family size must be 2 or higher. That should create an error. If you say married and 1 in family size, that could pose a problem. And we're going to be asking you about that. Number in college must be 1 or higher, cannot exceed family size, and the parents' enrollment in college should not be included unless it was included as a result of a professional judgment that you did at your school. Report the family income, the taxable and untaxed, based on a review of the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASFA. Usually you're going to be reporting the 2016 income from the FAFSA or the WASFA. If you did complete a professional judgment, report that income. And make sure that if you do a professional judgment, make sure you process that transaction through the system. Report integers without dollar signs or cents. So you can see the example here. 44,010 would be 44010. This is the only place where in the file where a negative number can be used. So make sure that it's the only place in the family income where if you have negative numbers, you can put them here, but don't put them anywhere else. We will contact you if you do.
For the CTC link system, the family income value is pulled from the state need grant eligible data page. If the student is dependent, only the parent's taxable and non-taxable income are included. If the student is independent, both the student and spouse taxable and non-taxable income are included. Negative family income values will be included if applicable.
For the expected family contribution, you're going to be using the federal methodology calculation produced by the U.S. Department of Ed based on the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASPA EFC. Report the FMEFC even if institutional methodology is used in some of the private schools and if it produces a different EFC. We want the federal methodology. The EFC may be adjusted by professional judgment decisions. Just make sure you process that transaction. And the EFC should reflect the number of months that's reported in the need duration. For cost of attendance, most campuses use several student budgets to reflect changes in living expenses. We want you to report the student budget amount related to the need amount. And it should be based on the number of months reported in the need duration. They need to match. So here's the need calculation that you all intimately are aware of. So you've got your cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution, and that equals need. The need is based on all three items on the number of months reported in the need duration. For the need amount, report the amount used in the disbursement of aid. This is an area where we want you to report the need amount as 0 or higher. We do not want negative values here. You don't have a negative need for our purposes. It's 0 if it's a negative. For need duration, report the need duration based on the number of months for which the need amount and cost of attendance were reported. Normally, the integers are from 1 to 12. The 9-month setup is the standard, and if a student leaves after one term, you're not required to calculate everything to 3 months. You can, but it's not required. We do want you to, if you do adjust any of those components, we want you to adjust them all. If you adjust one, adjust all. We want to be consistent for the period of time that the student is in attendance and for what you adjust budget and cost to. This is just a slide that indicates term enrollment status. Generally, for career schools, for every 300 hours of attendance, that would equal full-time, and an exception is for the final term. Clock hours could have 5 terms to report.
For the CTC link system, the term enrollment status are pulled from the FA load field on the FA term page. The FA term values are translated and included in the CSV data file. These are just approximate term date ranges for clock hour institutions. It's just to give those clock hour schools an idea of what the term dates are. On the state need grant or Washington College grant, college-bound scholarship, and passport to college, report the final awards received by the student. The unit record reporting tool checks against the Seesaw record. And it's really important that you remember this. Again, our goal is to have the records in the unit record report or match what's been reported in Seesaw. If not, we have to reconcile that. Review the SMG, CBS, and passport differences report. This will allow you to verify all the recipients and awards are correctly reported. And if you need to make changes, you can. Anne will be the one you'll be working with if you have issues, and you'll see what the edits at the end of this PowerPoint.
Okay, we do have a question. Okay, it looks like this is back to the ABE question. All of our students who took only ABE coursework for only 1 quarter and then moved to credit coursework to which they received need-based funds, need duration will be inaccurate because we have to report the budget EFC to match what they were actually paid. Tammy, I believe Carla may have responded to this question. I'm not sure if it was to you or at a different school, but I believe what she said was not to count the terms that ABE only was paid in that need duration. We will check with her and get back to you, but that is my recollection.
So we're only interested in those, the duration and cost for the period for which they received.
Where they were financial aid eligible.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, let's move forward.
On the reporting of tuition dollars, waiver dollars for state need grant and CBS recipients, this is required for the 2018-19 year. And we want this so that we have an accurate representation of all forms of assistance that needy students are receiving. We want you to include the full assessed tuition and fee amounts in each student's cost of attendance to reflect the tuition prior to the application of waivers. And we want you to report the waivers as a financial aid resource in the appropriate field, either the need-based institutional gift aid or the non-need-based institutional gift aid, and there's definition in the manual. For state work study, the on-campus and off-campus employment needs to be reported separately. We want you to report the student's total gross earnings, including the employer match or institutional share. Include summer employment, and report either the actual gross earnings based on the monthly cutoff dates or institutional payroll dates, or the average gross term earnings over the academic year for all terms the student was enrolled at least half-time. And we want the total to be very close to what was reported to the state work study staff. For the institutional gift aid, you want to report it as either need-based institutional gift aid, which would be all institutional grants, scholarships, and or waivers awarded solely or partially on a review of the 2018-19 FAFSA or WASFA. So there was some need-based component. Or the non-need-based institutional gift aid, which would be all institutional grants, scholarships, and or waivers awarded without regard to the FAFSA or WASFA. And this would include institutional funds awarded to Running Start or non-matriculated students. For other state-funded gift assistance, this would be sources of state aid that aren't reported anywhere else. And we have a list of what those funds are. So if you have these, it would be under other state-funded gift assistance. If you have questions on this, you absolutely can shoot Ann or Carla or me an email in the unit record mailbox, and we'll have that address at the end of the presentation.
Okay. And I think you mentioned the Gold Star. I think that was a new one this year. And if I'm not mistaken, in talking to Carla, she had indicated that it should go here under the state-funded gift assistance. At the time I created this slide, I was unaware of it, so it's not listed here, but it is one of those programs. Why don't we go ahead and unmute our audience and see if we have any questions. Alrighty, we have unmuted the line, and we're open to entertaining any of your direct questions. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and remute everyone.
Now we get to talk about edits. The edits ensure data quality. So the point of having those is that if there are any conflicts, you will get an edit that will help you to help us understand what's going on. Edits are softer for students receiving only non-need-based federal loans, and FAFSA-related edits are also softer for students not receiving FAFSA or WASFA required aid types. The Appendix C on page 45 does list all the edits that prevent your file upload, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier. If your header row is missing or invalid, if you have duplicate Social Security numbers or any invalid codes, so make sure that even if you have a header row that's there, if if the codes or the field names are not accurate, it won't upload. And then blanks in required fields is another example of something that will prevent the file upload. So make sure that you review all 12 items so you don't have any surprises. For non-overridable edit examples, again, you have Appendix C, pages 46 to 48 in the manual. If your total aid reported is 0 is an example. If you have a non-resident with a state need grant or other state aid, that's going to throw an edit, and we're probably going to contact you if we see something that just doesn't look quite right. If your number in college is greater than your family size. And for state work study, if you don't have an allocation in the portal, you're going to get a non-overridable edit. Overridable edits, again, Appendix C, pages 46 to 48. If the need is 0 with need-based aid, perhaps the budget changed with dropped credits, you can override those if there's a valid reason for that. Year in school for aid type, so federal Grad Plus loan is an example. I talked about that student that graduated mid-year and went on to a graduate program. Date of birth outside the normal range. We get this if they're younger, and I guess there are some, but we also get it if they're old. So those are overridable because you do have people coming back to school after a certain age. And an overridable edit is available if the cost of attendance minus the EFC does not equal the need amount reported by the college. You can correct the edit or enter an override reason on the student record.
In the CTC Link system, there are 3 edit reports. We recommend that the reports be reviewed and worked in order shown here to verify that setup and errors are addressed prior to reviewing data to be included in the unit record extract file. There's Report C, which is your missing item type report. This will identify any FA item type that has been awarded to a student with an amount greater than 0 and qualifies to be reported in the unit record extract file, but the item type does not exist in your unit record config setup page. Report B is your error and detail summary report. It is separated into 2 sections. There's the first tab that contains a list of students sorted by last name, first name, and EMPL who have 1 or more errors, and the error message, number, and description are included. The second tab will contain a list of all error messages encountered on the first tab with a total student count for each. You can view Appendix C in the unit record manual for suggestions on how to resolve each error condition. Last, there is Report A, which is your student detailed report, and this will provide a list of student details to be included in the extract file. In addition, the dollar amounts for each award received by the student is tallied and provided in the total column.
Just a few reminders regarding edits. Keep your comments concise and to the point, but with sufficient detail to directly address the edit message. Report your family income using the SNG income calculation, not the total income field from the FAFSA. It should match the income reported on Seesaw that you reported in the 2018-19 Seesaw record. So just as to emphasize this, when you're calculating the family income for a dependent student, you include the parent's adjusted gross income, AGI, or non-taxable income. You don't include the student's income. When you're calculating income for an independent student, you count the student's AGI and non-taxable income and that of the spouses if they are married. For both dependent and independent students, if the AGI is not present, then use the sum of all taxable plus non-taxable income. This shouldn't be news to the majority of you who are listening to this. The financial aid administrator may, but is not required to subtract the following allowable exclusions when calculating that income. Taxable earnings from need-based employment programs, such as federal work study, and need-based portions of fellowships and assistantships. taxable student grant and scholarship aid reported to the IRS in the AGI. This includes AmeriCorps benefits as well as grant and scholarship portions of fellowships and assistantships, untaxed combat pay or special combat pay, earnings from work under a cooperative education program offered by a college. Title IV grant aid should be subtracted from the base income regardless of whether it was taxed or untaxed. And child support income must be excluded from income calculations for less than half-time students, but not from other enrollment categories. So that's something that pertains only to less than half-time students. Benefit veterans are treated in the same manner as for the purpose of eligibility of Title IV financial aid. Report an adjusted expected family contribution according to the need duration if a student attended less than full-time, full year, if your standard practice is to do so. Need, COA, and duration must all be consistent. We also would like you to report all known race categories for each student, even where Hispanic origin is marked Y. It eliminates gaps in our research data, and it ends up being a fairly important element for our reporting.
Some reminders for those of you on the CTC link system. Reconcile your awards, add or update your unit record configuration tables. You can run unit record as many times as needed, and a CSV data file is generated each time you run the report. Review your edit reports and correct your errors. You can rerun the unit record report, download the CSV data file to your desktop or local network drive, and then upload to WASAC portal.
So some tips and best practices. Upload your CSV file early. Please don't wait for the deadline. I know how hard it is, but it's something that it helps all of us. Review your 2018-19 unit record manual and training materials, and test your upload using the portal training environment. Keep in mind, we do have this portal training environment that's available to you, but I just, as a caution, if you do use this, say on a Tuesday and upload and you're expecting to work at Wednesday, it'll be gone on Wednesday because we do clear all that information in the training portal. So anything you might have entered will be cleared and you'll start from scratch the next day. But it is a really useful place for you to go and to test things that are happening. Use the unit record informational reports to check for consistency and validity. For the CTCs, review the SBCTC 2018-19 Unit Record Processing Guide when it's available, and contact WASAC with questions or problems not addressed in the Unit Record Manual. Just so that you are aware, notice will be sent when this session has been posted and is available for you to share with others. And that concludes this part. We're going to go to the web application. Are there any questions that you have before we go to that last piece?
I'm going to unmute the audience. The line is open for your questions. Hearing none, I'm remuting and we'll move on. I believe most of you are familiar with getting to our portal. The login address is shown at the top of the page here. There is another way that's a little bit less direct. If you go to our WASAC main website, click on Administration, the first link you see under that menu item is the portal. If you click that, it will take you to this landing page. Once you're here, there are a couple of ways to get in. If you click the Unit Record Report link under the Financial Aid Administrators, it will take you to another login page, but once you log in, it will take you directly to the unit record. If you're working in several different programs, you might want to do our traditional login, which is up here on the right-hand corner. enter your email address and your password, and it will take you to the next screen where you can select under the Home button the programs and then unit record. The first item you'll see, if it's the first time you've logged in for the year, is this this welcome page. And at this point, you would click to proceed to upload. Once you have logged in and uploaded a file and you return at a later date, you will bypass this this welcome screen. It will take you directly to the last step that you left off on, whether it was ready to begin, in progress, or submitted. The next screen you'll see is the screen where you will browse your PC for the CSV file, and then click the upload button. If you select a file that is not a CSV, it will reject the file, and you'll know that right away. If it's a successful upload, you will see this processing bar if it is a large file, and that will give you a sense of how long it will be before you're able to move forward with working on your edits. If you have a fairly small file, that processing bar will zip by fairly rapidly, and you may not even see it. If your file is rejected for a major error, you will receive an error pop-up, and it will tell you exactly which row the error is in and what the error message is. In this case, you would discard that file and then correct the error in your main CSV report and then attempt another upload. On the other hand, if you have a large file and you realize while it's processing that you may have selected the wrong file, or that there are other errors that cause that file not to be the one you wanted to upload, you can interrupt that processing and discard that upload mid-upload. What that will do is it will shut that down, and it will remove that file so that you can select another file. This is especially important, say, if you're one of the very large schools that have thousands of students. So it saves you time. Once your file has uploaded, you will see this summary of your records, and just take a quick look at it. See whether or not the numbers roughly match what you expected to see. If you are a two-year institution, you will only see a couple of these enrollment categories. If you're a four-year institution, you will see all of these, or if you don't have a graduate population, that will not show up. But just take a quick look, and if everything looks correct, then you would click to continue. And this next screen will populate as the file is being processed in the background. You see this refresh button, and you can click it periodically to bring up additional edit records. Once the portal has completed the edit process, that initial edit process, that refresh button will go away, and that's your clue that that portion has been completed. You can begin editing while it's still working on that processing, but it may rearrange some of your records as you go. Once all your files are ready and available for your edit, you can sort your file according to how you would like to process your edits. You can use this drop-down and select by edit type, or you can click on any one of these column headers and resort. Generally speaking, the unit record will cluster the individuals with their various edits together by individual. But definitely if you have, you know, another way you'd prefer to sort, you can do so. If you have any non-overridable edits, you will be unable to move forward with your processing until those are addressed. Those are indicated with a little stop sign icon. We recommend that perhaps you address those records first because without an actual correction in that record, you won't be able to submit your file. To make any corrections or overrides, click on the student's Social Security number. That will open up the individual's unit record. At the top of that, you will see all of the edits that have been identified for that student, and also these little override buttons to the side. If you choose to make corrections, you would enter the file field directly, make your corrections. If it's in the enrollment status, it's a drop-down box. Just click on that, make your selection. Otherwise, you enter the field directly, make the change. Please remember to click the Save button down here at the bottom before you exit that file. Otherwise, it will not retain that correction, and you will find that it still resides on your edit list. If you choose to enter an override for those that are overridable edits, once you click that override button, a little pop-up box will show up, and you enter your override comment here in this little box. Remember to click Save. You can double-check to see what comment you've entered by hovering your cursor over the little round blue icon, and the yellow pop-up box will show the comment that you've actually entered. And you'll notice that as you address these, they will either disappear because you've made a correction, or they will gray out to show that you've made an adjustment in that record. Once you've addressed all of your overrides, you have a couple of options. There is a button here that says Show SNG CVS Passport to College Differences Report. That is an informational and review button. It truly does not take you to a place in the portal where you can continue. It's they're mostly just for review as you're processing later. In order to actually move forward with your submission, click this Click to Continue button. The first thing you'll see is this differences report. And under each of these tabs, you will see any edits that may be outstanding. If you have already addressed an edit, you will see a Y in the Override Requested column. That differentiates those records from those that still have edits that need to be addressed. So these can be ignored because you have already address them. On the other hand, if you see a blank in that column, that is an unaddressed edit that needs to be taken care of. Either go back to that record and make a correction, or download these differences if you have quite a few of them to a CSV file so that you can review them and then go back in and make corrections. This will also help you identify any missing student records that you might have to add or correct. To add missing data to an existing record in your file, you go back up to the menu bar at the top of the screen and then click the search button under the unit record. If you find that you are missing a record that should be added, go back out to the main edit page. There should be a button along the top of that page that says add a new unit record to the report. Click that, and what will happen is it will open up a totally blank unit record. There are two tabs that we ask that you fully fill out as completely as possible, and be sure that you click Save at the end in order to retain your work. This screen here is just an example of what you'll find on that second tab, the Financial Aid tab. At the top of that screen, you will see the 5 terms. You would need to indicate enrollment in each of these. If it's not enrolled, you can leave it as it is. These other boxes generally show as a vertical list in the actual unit record. We show them horizontally here just so that you can see them side by side and know what programs you're reporting on. After you have completed looking at your state need grant college bound and passport to college edits, there is this 4th tab that was added about, I would say, maybe 3 years ago. And the purpose for this is to include information about students that you have reported as unserved in Seesaw, but for whom there is no unit record in your upload file. The reason this is important is that your allocation for the following year is based on not only your served students, but your legitimately unserved students. And because these individuals were not in the unit record, we want to investigate whether the enrollments that you report in Seesaw are accurate, because these files will be taken into account in creating your allocation. The first thing you might want to do is download this report to a CSV. And the top of this page is an example of the report. When you download it, I have highlighted columns that we consider change columns. All of these others indicate information that we have available to us in the Seesaw record. The first thing you want to do is check this list and see if there are any individuals for whom you may need to add a record. Perhaps they did receive some need-based aid and are reportable, and we ask that you address those first. If you add those records, you can do one of two things. You can indicate that information in the comments section, or go back out to the main discrepancy report in the portal and click that CSV file. It will create a new CSV file, and if you've added that record, that name will disappear from this report. And then what you're left with are those for whom you need to address. We ask that you not overwrite any information that is created in that initial download. The information that you change or add should be placed in these change columns. The first thing you would do is take a look at each row and assess whether or not there are changes to any of the enrollment statuses. If there are no changes, if the record is correct as reported in Seesaw, all you need to do is place a yes in this initial column that says indicate yes if all terms are okay. You need make no other changes to that that line. If, on the other hand, in the case of Aaron Andrews, originally he was reported in Seesaw as full-time for fall, full-time for winter, not enrolled for spring. But you realize that he was only less than half-time for fall, half-time for winter, and full-time for spring. You would indicate those changes in that change column. Save this report and return to us. If you're on the correct discrepancies report page, you should see a button that says send an email. That email is through our secure portal email system. It will come to us directly in the unit record mailbox, which is monitored by all three of the members of the SFA unit record team. And we do review that to see whether there are any changes that could affect your allocation. Next, you will want to address any Social Security mismatches that you find in these discrepancy reports. And what you will find is quite often two individuals with the same name, different social numbers. If indeed they are the same individual, they will show up in these discrepancies reports. Depending on where the error is, you may be able to fix the Social Security number from your end, or you may have to enlist help from WASAC staff. If indeed the incorrect social number is within the unit record itself, you can go back in and edit that student record, make the correction on the Social Security number, and save that file. On the other hand, if the incorrect social number or ITIN is in the Seesaw record, that will require assistance from WASAC staff. And in order to notify us of that, you can use the same send an email button. And in that email, tell us what student it is, what the correct Social Security number is, and what the incorrect one is, and we will initiate that change through our IT department. If you don't see this send an email button, you can go back out to the main portal and click on the, I believe it's the files, forms, and memos, and send us a secure email that way. And it performs the same function. It will come to us securely, so that you don't need to worry about privacy issues, revealing information like that. It is a secure email. If there are any other changes that need to take place based on your review of these records, you can return to that edit list, the main edit list, and either add a record or make other corrections. Otherwise, click to continue. We're approaching the point at which you can submit your unit record. What you'll see at this point is the institutional totals report. It is a preliminary report. If you have submitted to us all of your records, this will have a comparison of the 4 years, including the current year that you're reporting on. However, because the reporting year also includes those non-need-based only students, some of these percentage changes that you'll see may be a bit artificially high at this point. Take a look at this report, see if it looks like it's correct in the realm of reality for you. But before you leave this page, we suggest that you create a PDF of the report. even though it's preliminary. And the reason we ask you to do that is before we release the institutional profile reports in January, we will delete what we call extraneous information, and those would be records for students who received only non-need-based aid and no federal loans. So that will change these, some of these percentages. For some schools, it's not a very big difference, but if there is a difference of 10% or more between years, we do check back with you. If you have this preliminary report, we can compare apples to apples, because when we're running our review, we do that before we delete the extraneous information. So you have this for reference. Okay, so if everything looks like it's correct, click on this click to continue button. If you realize that you may not have reported a program, something went wrong, perhaps information might have been reported in the wrong column, the wrong program column, you can return to this edit list and make those corrections at this point. Otherwise, you are now at the point where you can click that submit button and send us your report. We do send you one last pop-up that asks, are you sure? Once you have clicked the submit button, you will no longer be able to re-enter the unit record to make changes or corrections without assistance from WASAC staff. If indeed you realize after the fact that there is a change or correction that you need to make, please contact us. At this point in time, it's very easy to reopen your unit record and allow you to make those changes. As we approach the time where we're about to release the profile reports, we can still do it at that point. It's just a little bit more of a hassle. But definitely at any point in time as you're working with your unit record, if you have questions, if you're experiencing any difficulties, please give us a call. We're here to give you a hand. So once you have clicked that, you will receive a confirmation page. Everything will tell you that the file has been submitted. You can go in and review and print the summary reports. This is that preliminary program totals report again. So if you did not make a copy at the time you were doing your initial review of the report, you have the opportunity to do that now. These reports, these top 3 reports, will remain available to you even in January. However, when we open the next unit record, they will disappear and you will no longer have access to them. So we do want to point that out. The institutional profile reports down here will show up in January after we have finalized and closed all of the unit records and vetted the information. At this point, you can log out and you are done. I think I covered some of this information in the previous slide. At any point in time, once you've submitted your report, you can go back into the reports page and print these off up to the point that we actually reopen the unit record for the following year.
For the CTC link system, the unit record processing guide is available on the Records Center. The 1819 was posted earlier this week. If you have questions, you can contact Financial Aid ERP support team or file a ticket via the service desk.
So, where do you want to go to help for your unit record portal issues? Again, review the 2018-19 Unit Record Manual, which is available online at this URL. And at any time, you can contact the Washington Student Achievement Council staff at the unit record at wasac.wa.gov. And as Ann stated, that mailbox can be accessed by Ann, Carla, or me at any point. And we do that because we're not always here all the time, so it won't go into the netherworld. It's always accessible by someone. This recording will be available after Ann does her magic. It'll be available on the WASAC website. Both of the late August recorded webinars that we record with the SBC TIT staff will also be added to the unit record website about a week or so after the last webinar. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us, and if you have questions.
We have unmuted, so we will take any final questions before we adjourn. The mic is open. Thank you very much for your time and dedication to reviewing and learning about this year's unit record report. We look forward to working with you over the next couple of months, and thank you for your time today.